So I don't know when the longest period of time has been that you've ever gone without food. I know that right now for a lot of us, maybe we're eating more than we ever have because maybe we're quarantined inside. One time I got really sick and they didn't know what it was, and they did all these tests on me. My tongue turned black. I ran a fever. It lasted for a couple of weeks, and during those couple of weeks I didn't eat at all. I lost all kinds of weight. Might be a good weight loss right now. But I remember in that time going without food, how that there were times that my body really craved it, but I didn't eat it, and how that my body kind of wasted away. So we want to talk for a few minutes about the world that we live in, and we're going to reference in just a minute Matthew chapter 4 when Jesus goes without food. But a couple things before we get to that is, and I know that you know this, but we live in a fallen world. Our world is fallen all around us. People are broken. Our world is broken. Creation continues to groan for this opportunity for Jesus to renew it at some point. But it seems like that, there's more and more weeds. There's more and more cancer. There's more and more sickness. There's more and more broken people because we live in that broken world. You see, ever since the enemy came into the garden, when sin entered the world, we find out that Satan came to do three things. He came to steal, to kill, and to destroy. The enemy wants to crush us. He wants to make sure that we don't follow God at all. In fact, we're almost kind of this pawn between him and God. He wants more people to follow him than people to follow God. He wants to take away from God in that way. The great thing that we find out from God is that he has made a way for us to become whole. And he wants to be with us in the end. And God is near those that are in trial, and he's near the brokenhearted. But I think sometimes we miss that. There's a story told of an older woman that went to a blacksmith, and she wanted to know about how to refine a metal. And so she saw that he heated it up, and as he heated it up, he would take off what floated to the top. And then he would heat it again and take off what floated to the top, heat it again and take off what... And she said, "What are you doing?" He said, "I'm trying to make the metal as pure as I can." And she said, "So you heat it?" And he said, "Yeah. When I get it really hot, the impurities separate, and what's not good, what's not part of the metal, comes to the top, and I scrape it off." And she said, "How do you know when then the metal is where it needs to be, when it's pure?" And he said, "When I can see myself in the reflection of the metal." Well, I think that's part of what happens in this kind of refiner's fire for us, is that when we're being refined, that we're scraping off the impurities, and when we finally get to the point that we are as pure as we're supposed to be, as God sees himself in us. And so there's these temptations and trials and tests that come through our life. So we need to persevere through what we're going through. And God is going to be close to us. And in the midst of temptation and trial, God promises to be there. In Matthew chapter 4, verses 1 through 11, it's when Jesus goes out and he's about ready to start his ministry. And so he spends some time not eating. Listen to what the first couple verses say. When Jesus was led by the Spirit into the desert to be tempted by the devil, after fasting 40 days and 40 nights, he was very hungry. And the tempter came to him and said, "If you're the Son of Man, why don't you tell these stones to become bread?" You see, Satan always knows what our weakness is. He knows how he can get to us. Satan has always been deceptive, and he always has gone after what appeals to us. And he does the same thing with you and me all the time, just like he did. And we need to know that Satan even knew Scripture. But every time that he has a temptation, Jesus answers with a quote from a Scripture. I'm not so sure we've been in the Word enough to have enough Scriptures to go against what the devil says to us. But we should. We should arm ourselves with what we have. You see, just because you know Scripture, though, doesn't mean that you're going to be really following it, because Satan is devils. He's no Scripture. But Jesus has the answer because he really knows Scripture and the one that wrote it. Well, the great thing is at the very end, after these three temptations, Jesus comes out on the other side, and it says this, verse 11, "Then the devil left him, and the angels came and attended to him." You see, the great thing about this story is Satan is limited in his power. But that those that are struggling, God is very close to, and he ministers to. Maybe right now you're in a season of temptation. Maybe you're really at a place where you're struggling. Well, God has the power. We need to choose the power that he has. He's close to those that are going through trials. And Satan is so limited in his power that he has to leave for a while. And so whatever trial you're in right now, whatever season you're in, I hope you know that God promises to be there with you. You see, hard times come, and you just have to persevere. And I don't know what you're dealing with, but I know this, that Satan eventually will run out of power, and God has the ability to comfort you and be with you. In just a few minutes, you can look, and maybe you want to Zoom somebody or call somebody. Maybe there's somebody in the house that you're in that you can talk to for a few minutes about the questions that are going to follow. I hope that you'll think about these things. Connect with someone, though. If you're really struggling, if you're really in a season of trial right now, reach out to somebody and let them help you. Most of us may be doing okay, but we know somebody that's really struggling. And so why don't you connect to them? So take a few minutes, read through Matthew chapter 4, and look at the trials and the temptations. Because on the other side of this season, there is God waiting his angels to bring comfort no matter who you are.